Honourable Rodney Hyde.
Chairman, I move that the question be now put.
Good speech.
I'm going to call Dr.
No, that
Rasheen
was
Prasad.
excellent.
Chair. I want to thank the member and the chair for inviting us to reflect on this clause as a whole and to reflect on the fact that here, for the first time, we are being invited to think about the inclusion of the humanities alongside everything else. And I appreciate the member and the chair reminding us that this is not just bolting something else onto to an existing structure. It actually means something quite different. So I want to take that invitation to reflect on the functions of the Royal Society in that particular light. But only to also mention in passing, Mr. Chairman, that it's good to hear members in the chair beginning to sound like professors. Professor Robertson, and I thought that Professor Hodgson did a sterling job, even though I didn't agree with all his explanations, particularly about social sciences and humanities. But Mr. Chairman, what it's important to do is to try to look at the functions of the Royal Society and contemplate what is it that the humanities will get out of this when the humanities actually enters this pool of scientists as a whole through the Royal Society and actually achieve that kind of... There's a kind of elevation in there as well, which I want to reflect on. And so all interests are elevated, the interests of the science and technology as well as the humanities. So all boats are lifted by the way in which the member in the chair has encouraged us to think about the functions of this particular one. Looking at 6A, to foster a community, a culture that supports science, technology and the humanities. And I think number one, A1 rather, actually has a very important piece that's added in, which is public awareness. Mr. Chairman, I can sincerely say that at times, as a social scientist and as an academic at a university, and as belonging to a profession that calls on the humanities to develop its own graduates, that the level of public awareness of what the humanities has to contribute to any profession one cares to name has often been missing. And therefore there has been this, when we would go around recruiting students in the last year of high school to come into university and to encourage them to take, in addition to the specialisms they want to develop, actually encourage them to build into the degrees those things that will help, those subjects and disciplines that will help them think, develop their minds, think about our society, and think about those things those disciplines and subjects that takes us somewhere where we don't normally go. And that's what the humanities does. So this function of promoting public awareness, which now also includes the humanities, I think it is, if we look at that in a composite kind of way, and this is a sincere comment, that is quite amazing. This is already included in how the American academic system thinks about the role of a university. It actually makes it possible for everybody to have a broad social science, liberal arts education, which includes the humanities, so that the graduates do grow up with the ability to think for themselves and articulate their points of view. However, Mr. Chairman, I do disagree with respect with the member in the chair. I rather suspect that A2 is actually a typological error. I can't, the explanation, and I'd like to receive another one next time a different professor is in the chair, as to why the humanities is not included there. I sincerely believe it is actually an omission. So if you read it, you read to foster in New Zealand community a culture that supports science, technology and the humanities, including without exception, and A includes the humanities, but B says the advancement of science, technology, education, it almost assumes that there is no educational preparation that the humanities requires. And in fact it does. You know, and think about the ethics and philosophy. And there's a huge amount there that really does touch this particular function. And I invite the Royal Society through the member to either come back with another explanation, or maybe the Select Committee will have one. And of course, other members have already talked about the other functions added to, Mr. Chairman. The other functions that have been added to the other functions of the Royal Society, which now includes the humanities. The other members have talked about recognising excellence. Those who are functioning at the highest level in any discipline always look to see where is it, which courts do I need to be part of so that my discipline is seen as standing alongside any others, like in the sciences and technology. And so when we recognise excellence, we actually recognise our high achievers. And here is a function of the Royal Society to recognise our high achievers in the humanities alongside everybody else. This is not about a pecking order. That is now long gone. And with this addition, this might be the final piece of the jigsaw that actually says that when you recognise excellence, then no one discipline plays a second fiddle. The second fiddle, it's there right at the top. And so clause 6B actually has that very, very important function. Then we go to see, and Mr. Chairman, I'm really talking about what does the humanities get out of being included in the Royal Society in the way that this bill does. And in its functions then is where the benefits are actually embedded, and we can talk about them. So, and here the Royal Society also will have a role in providing infrastructure and other supports for professional needs and the development of the humanities scholars. So here we are. This is an investment in the humanities of the future. And humanities will take us, will take any profession to new heights by building alongside the basic knowledge of that particular discipline something else that's not ordinarily available to particular scientists. And here we are, providing an infrastructure to do that and to support the professional needs of those who are humanities scholars is really an investment. And that is made in this particular way by the Royal Society, and something again, Mr. Chairman, that I'm particularly pleased to see. Then there is that little piece of any profession, discipline, that actually adds to the advancement of our society. There is a question that needs to be asked: how will they function, and what are the rules that will guide them? So here the Royal Society is saying to the humanities, you also have ethical requirements to meet, and therefore the functions of the Royal Society, as it administers for members a code of professional standards and ethics, they are now beholden to that as well. So in addition to any that they might have had on their own, here is a set of principles, a code of professional standards, which is embedded in the functions of the Royal Society, and which the humanities now will actually have to meet. I asked the member to take a call and explain to us what is his view about the inclusion of the humanities in the social sciences. As a jurist and as a lawyer, I'm sure that particular profession could learn a lot as well from the humanities. And just that ability to stop and think and add. I know that particular member is very capable of doing this rather than taking cheap shots. So here we are, Mr. Chairman, another cornerstone of the Royal Society that actually does and is now available to the humanities, and I'm particularly pleased to see that. But with the other thing is the other aspect of the humanities is really of the role of Royal Society is really contribution. The expertise that's brought together in some kind of composite way and made available to our society and for the advancement of our society. And therefore, Mr. Chairman, it is a day of celebration for me personally, from my background, that knowing that here the humanities will stand alongside each of those other disciplines, the sciences, technology, etc., to know that they have that space to make that kind of contribution. So I am pleased that I'm able to take this call today and really explain from myself and for my students that fact. Thank you.
I call Catherine Delahunty.